And good morning, good afternoon, good evening, ladies and gents. This is boy Casanova from Orlando, Florida, on this awesome and international podcast, Good Wine and Great Laughs, the podcast for wine lovers, ladies and gents, summer movie reviews, and hot topic discussion. I'm Casanova. Welcome to Casanova, ladies and gents. If you are new to my YouTube channel, what I do here every Saturday morning, I have the wine of the day, ladies and gents. Shortly, I'm going to open this wine over here. I'm going to give some information about the wine that I got. Drink it and taste it, and they'll let you know what I think about this wine. Give a rate between 1 to 10. And then after that, we're going to jump on some videos related to the topic of the day, ladies and during the summer month of June and July, I have summer movies reviews. So any movies that come out in movie theaters, Netflix, Amazon Prime, and all the other platforms that come during those months, I do a review about it, ladies. So once again, if you love wine, love summer movies reviews, and love hot topic discussion, ladies and gents, this YouTube channel is for you. If you like the work that I do, ladies and gents, I appreciate if you click on the like button, subscribe, and share with any of those videos that you watch with at least 5 people you know. I appreciate your support, ladies and gents. And today is Saturday, October 11, 2025, and the weather here in Orlando is going to be with the intervals of cloud and sunshine. Highs of 80 degrees and lows of 64, ladies and gents. So before I start talking about the topic of the day, let's talk about the wine of the day. Oh yeah, Mami! All right, ladies and gents, this is another rosé wine from Chile. Oh yeah, Mami. And let me see right here. It's a alcohol percent of this wine is 12.5. The label does not have too much information. Just say there's a demi-sec. You know, there's a scale here between dry and sweet, and from 1 to 10, and they say it's 5. Okay. And basically, that's about it. Doesn't tell me the vintage of it. Let me see this label. It doesn't have it, ladies and gents. So, I have no clue. I got some meatballs right here, some Parmesan cheese, and some thymes. So, definitely like the color. Ladies and gents, this is a very, very good rosé. I give a 10 for this one. It is very good rosé, ladies and gents. So once again, Oye Mami from Chile, and the picture of this wine of the day is going to be available on all my social media, ladies and gents. So let's jump on the topic of the day, ladies and gents. And the topic of the day is for season 11, episode 11. The shutdown is affecting air traffic control, and according to Trump, some employees won't get back pay. This is a shame, but according to the law, that's not how it's supposed to be, ladies and gents. So, excuse me. Excuse me. All right. So, enough talking. Oh, first of all, gotta give credit. Of course, I gotta give credit to the videos they're gonna watch, ladies and gents. I'm gonna watch the 3 videos. I like to give credit to CNN, the WCNC, and CBS News, ladies and gents. These are the videos that I'll be playing shortly. And after I'll be here in and watching this video with you, drink this wine, eat these meatballs, and after those videos, I'll give my 2 cents. So enough talking, it is showtime.
Government shutdown. No longer just a Washington problem, it's now landed at an airport near you. Last night, an air traffic control tower sat unmanned for hours at Hollywood Burbank Airport.
It doesn't make me happy.
They are, in essence, the same as firefighters, police. They're serving the public, and public lives are at stake. So I would rather see some resolution be reached.
They have no other way to show that it's hurting not just them, but us.
Travelers were stuck for more than 2.5 hours yesterday after the FAA closed the tower there because of a staffing shortage. Yesterday, nearly 6,000 flights were delayed, and even more are piling up this morning, with 356 delays listed already. The FAA says more than 13,000 air traffic controllers are expected to continue working through the government shutdown, but they're not getting paid, and some are starting to not show up.
And if someone has to take sick leave to drive Uber to make the difference, those are decisions they're going to make themselves. But of course, that's concerning for us. I don't want them driving Uber. I don't want them finding a second job to pay the bills. I want them to get paid for the work they're doing today, keeping our planes in the air and our skies safe.
Joining us now to discuss, Harvey Skolnick. He's a former FAA air traffic controller. Good morning, Harvey. Thanks for being with us.
Good morning, Audie. Thanks for having me.
So I feel like I've been talking to you off and on for several months now about air traffic control, right? And the concerns that they have long had with staffing. How is this compounding, this government shutdown, compounding the problem?
Well, staffing has always been a problem with the FAA, as I've mentioned earlier. Burbank, for instance, which closed yesterday, is supposed to have 24 controllers. I think they only have 17. Of those 17, I'm not sure how many of those are fully certified. But anytime a facility is not staffed to what is preferred by the FAA normally, it has an effect on breaks. It has an effect on controllers getting time off. It has an effect on training. And the job is tough enough as it is. And when you have to work 6 days a week, and now you're not getting paid on time, so everything has a cumulative effect on the FAA.
You know, the government says that it actually met its goal of hiring some 2,000 air traffic controllers this year. According to Reuters, it plans to hire another 2,200 next year. But how do you think the government shutdown kind of complicates those goals for recruitment or even the hiring itself?
Well, as of right now, everything is as normal given this shutdown. Other shutdowns, the FAA has stopped the hiring process. They've stopped the school in Oklahoma City, and they've stopped training at the facilities. So, so far as I know, the government still has funding until the end of the month. So, if things get settled, then it won't have that much of an impact. But if we do have to go to that stage where we need to actually ask people to stay home, administrative staff and otherwise, controllers themselves are accepted and do come to work. But if it comes to a point where people have to stay home and support services are not available, that will have an effect.
Do you think that, I'm just thinking of morale here, are air traffic controllers kind of fed up? I mean, people who are calling in, not coming in, there's been so much pressure and concerns, right, about collisions and things like that. Do you think some people are reaching their breaking point?
I think they may be. I've been talking to some of my friends, some of the people that I've trained over the years, and I've been in contact with them. They're at various facilities around the country, and they are reporting an issue with morale. And so, look, I mean, controllers back in the day, when you're required to maintain separation with other airplanes, and sometimes that separation may have been questionable, a supervisor might come over and say, did you have 3 miles there? And you say, I did. And that would be the end of it. Today, anytime there's a question, everybody with a cell phone is immediately aware of it. So you're under the gun all the time. The job is difficult enough as it is. And now you're telling people that they might not get their paycheck when it's due.
Right.
So I'm sure morale is going to be affected.
It's Harvey Skolnick. Thank you so much.
The government shutdown starting to impact air travel. At least a dozen airports, including major hubs like Phoenix, Denver, Chicago, and D.C., having serious staffing shortages. An air traffic control tower at Hollywood Burbank Airport went unmanned for hours Monday night. Air traffic controllers, as you know, they are supposed to be working during the shutdown, but they're not being paid. Joining me now is CNN transportation analyst Mary Schiavo. She is also the former Inspector General of the Department of Transportation. Thank you. I'm so glad to see you in person. It's so nice to have you in the studio with us. But there is a lot of concern. So Monday afternoon, this control tower completely shuts down for a bit because they say that people had called in sick, the air traffic controllers. I'm just curious, what happens when suddenly a tower goes dark and you have planes in the sky and on the ground trying to take off?
Well, what happens is the pilots have to act like general aviation pilots, like pilots who fly without air traffic control. And they can do it, but you have to use a communications line that's sort of like a common chat line, and you announce your intentions and you take off, just like, I do in our small planes. But it's doable, but it adds a margin of danger. It's not as safe as having full air traffic control, and statistics prove that.
No one should have to work without pay. We are now going into day 7, but they haven't been paid yet. There's a lot of confusion as to why call out sick now when it's not like you get paid every day.
Right. Well, you get paid every 2 weeks in the federal government. There's the check goes in automatically. And this happens. When I was Inspector General, Clinton went through 2 shutdowns. One was 21 days. And what happens is people get anxious, people get nervous, and sometimes there's abuse of sick leave. And of course, I had to investigate those. People do it to take other jobs, to start looking for other jobs, just in anticipation of losing their paychecks. But in the federal government, if you're out for sick leave for more than 3 days, you have to have a doctor's note. Right. And if they're suspicious, they can require you go to the doctor. So taking sick leave when you're not sick is always a bad idea, which is why their controllers group has called for people not to abuse sick leave. Go in and do your job. You're a federal employee. For example, President Reagan had 7 shutdowns. So seasoned federal employees know about this, but it's hard. Yeah,
it's really hard for families as they're looking at, and I think you hit the nail on the head. It's like, okay, they might have to start looking for work because the last shutdown during the last Trump administration lasted the longest ever, 35 days. A lot of concern out there. I am curious if you think that this, like has happened in the past, the air traffic control, the TSA, could force Congress, could be the driving force to get Congress to do their job. Have we seen that in the past?
Yes, we have. That what's interesting is, it's 5 or 6% of the, gross domestic product, but the confusion, the congestion, the inability to get your job done really has, and literally in the past, the shutdowns have been ended because of air traffic control and the inability to travel, because, we rely on it so much. And then there are certain areas that can only be accessed by air. Alaska will be hard hit. Alaska Airlines did say they're going to keep right on flying. And so that's good. But it is often air transportation that pushes the government back to full funding and full work.
You have been and seen everything when it comes to aviation, and through all of the shutdowns that you just mentioned. We will see what happens this time, but it is a pleasure to have you here in person, Mary.
Thank you. Good to be with you.
Live Impact News. We are starting you off with some live images right now at Charlotte Douglas International Airport as we are watching the flight situation around the nation. Day 7 of the government shutdown, and we are starting to see some issues with air traffic controllers, staffing, and that is having kind of a ripple effect we're seeing with the ability to get flights off in the correct time and appropriate time as scheduled. So with that, we want to get the very latest on the situation. We have Ivan Rodriguez who's joining us right now. Ivan, you've been monitoring the situation around the nation. What are we seeing as far as impacts from this federal government shutdown on how folks have been able to travel and get around the country by air?
Well, Vanessa, the government shutdown is not just a Washington problem. It's now landing at airports across the country. The Department of Transportation says more than 13,000 air traffic controllers are expected to continue working through the government shutdown, but without pay. Some are starting to not show up.
With the government shutdown sliding into its 7th day, Transportation Secretary Sean Duffy says air traffic controllers are wondering if there's an end in sight.
They're thinking about, am I going to get a paycheck?
Controllers are considered essential workers, so they must work during the shutdown, but are not being paid.
We want to make sure we have air travel safe and controllers focused, not on their mortgages, not on their next paycheck, not on food on the table, but actually on making sure you and your family are safe.
12 FAA facilities saw staffing shortages Monday night. The control towers in Burbank, Phoenix, and Denver had so-called staffing triggers reported in the public FAA operations plan. Other facilities that handle air traffic around airports in Newark, New Jersey, Jacksonville, Florida, Chicago, Washington, D.C., and Indianapolis also were short-staffed, which in some cases caused hours-long delays.
If we have additional sick calls, we will reduce the flow consistent with a rate that's safe for the American people.
Former air traffic controller Harvey Skolnick says anytime a facility isn't staffed properly, it has a ripple effect.
It has an effect on breaks. It has an effect on controllers getting time off. It has an effect on training. And the job is tough enough as it is. And when you have to work 6 days a week, and now you're not getting paid on time, so everything has a cumulative effect in the FAA.
The FAA is expecting short staffing at some facilities across the country today, according to its operations plan. Chicago O'Hare's air traffic control tower will be short staffed until midnight. Other facilities with short staffing include Nashville, Houston, Newark, Las Vegas, and flights in the Boston area. Vanessa?
Yeah, Ivan, this is an interesting situation when you consider like some of these air traffic controllers who are working without pay. I mean, do you have any response from the National Air Traffic Controllers Association? How are they, reflecting and remarking on things right now?
NATCA says the problems highlight a decades-long staffing shortage. The union's president says he wants to see the shutdown come to an end as soon as possible so the FAA and aviation safety professionals can focus on their vital work. He also says the union does not support any federal employees participating or endorsing activities that affect the national airspace.
Now, there's another layer here to this, the fact that smaller airports are set to lose these government subsidies for the flights to smaller cities. What are you seeing as far as impacts from that?
Yeah, that's called the Essential Air Service. It provides funding for airlines to fly to those small cities that might otherwise not receive that air service, and that'll expire on Sunday. The Department of Transportation says that the main state that uses that is Alaska, where air travel is crucial. But again, a lot of these airlines will continue flying that in the immediate future. If longer this shutdown goes on, though, they might have to stop.
Yeah, wow. All right, Ivan, thank you so much for your time. We appreciate you getting us an update on everything, kind of big picture around the nation when it comes to air travel. We appreciate it. Thanks. Folks, here on WCNC Plus Live Impact News here, we, of course, will keep you updated with the very latest. You heard Ivan talking about some specific airports that have been impacted. We actually have a look here at, kind of a visual of kind of painting the picture of what we're seeing. So some of those airports have been called out. Our producer, James Brierton, has prepared some visuals for us here regarding that. So
yeah,
what
we're
are you
looking
seeing?
at flight tracking information, Vanessa, and this right now is from FAA.gov. So just like you were hearing, airports like Chicago are citing staffing reasons for ground delays. Nashville being one of those as well too, where delays were upwards of 2 hours. Dallas adding on to this list in the last little bit here, saying that due to staffing, they have average delays of 30 minutes. And these things all have trickled down effects. So just looking at Memphis, Tennessee, for example, Vanessa, and right now we're looking at flights between Memphis and Charlotte, you can see that while some of these flights did manage to arrive on time, we have seen some delayed flights today when we look at flight tracking websites such as FlightAware.com. And some of these have been improving. When we looked at this in the 5-6 o'clock hour in the height of Memphis's slowdown, we saw even more delayed flights. Some of them seemed like they were able to kind of make up for lost time, but we're still looking at 1 or 2 delayed flights, even some delays as you look ahead to tomorrow, as I think the airlines are anticipating the spillover effect for this, because FlightAware's website has this misery map that shows you not only weather and weather-related impacts, but airports that are experiencing delays and cancellations. So anytime you have a plane that's moving between one of these air centers with staffing and with restrictions, that could trickle down to where that plane is not only going next, but where it's going after that, and so on and so forth. So it's possible, Vanessa, that these things could kind of be domino effects.
Yeah, and it's interesting to think too, how the shortages are kind of coming and going from different airports. So it's been kind of an interesting track on them in the sense that, James, this time yesterday we were tracking Hollywood Burbank. And there was a period of time where they were actually saying from, I believe it was around 7 o'clock Eastern time, so our time, but in Pacific time that'd be different. But from 7 p.m. until I want to say it was either 1 or 2 in the morning Eastern time, they were going to have nobody in the air traffic control tower. So
Yeah, they call that ATS 0, which is just to say there's no air traffic control staff in that tower. And in those scenarios, there's a couple of different tactics that they can deploy. They can shut down the airspace or the airport. They can throttle it and kind of limit the operations to kind of slow things down. Or, and they did a little bit of this, they can use remote air traffic controllers from other regions. So maybe elsewhere in California, for example, here's a live look at Los Angeles International Airport. And that just creates more work on an already strained system.
Well, and that's what they did, that third option that you mentioned, James. That's what they did in that case. We're told they actually used crews from San Diego to try to fill that gap. But to your point, they did have to throttle the flights. And so they were kind of uncertain how many they were going to get off the ground and have land according to what they had planned for that day. But they kind of try to manage as best as possible. Really, it's kind of what we're seeing around the nation for these specific airports. And I know we keep showing the live look at Charlotte Douglas. I mean, this is, seemingly an airport that has been spared, at least for now, from this. We haven't seen, since the shutdown started, any reports of concerns at CLT, at least not directly. And I know you kind of pointed to that and alluded to that a second ago.
And I was just trying to Google to see if the FAA had changed anything for Charlotte, and I don't see anything changes for Charlotte, but I do want to show this real fast. So this is another FAA website. This is different, Vanessa, than when I looked at it less than 2 hours ago. You see where it says terminal planned and en route planned? There's a lot of ground stop possible listed after those morning hours tomorrow that those were not there before, and they're listed under forecasted events. Now, we could go through each one of these and try to figure out why. Some of them might be weather-related, but I'm sure staffing would also be a contributing factor.
Yeah, and some of these are, from what I can tell, well, I mean, there's the Boston one where we know that there have been issues with the
Boston
staffing.
is showing up live tonight as having two related problems. One of them is that they have closed their airport to any non-scheduled general aviation aircraft. So if you own a private plane and you don't normally operate out of Boston, the airport's not open to you, but that doesn't really affect most of us who are flying commercial. But they also do have a ground delay at Boston right now, about 55 minutes due to runway construction. So that is another thing, right? Whereas you have crews and stuff working on airports, these things could trickle down. But I also did notice that on this list is Newark, and we know Newark is one of those airports that has been in the news for months now.
Well, wow.
Now, the other interesting layer here is, when we've been speaking of the shutdown in general, within the historical context of, recent years, we've of course mentioned the last government shutdown, which was in 2018, 2019, and that one lasting, I believe it was 30 plus days. One of the key reasons why then President Trump in his first term decided to end the shutdown was because of air traffic controllers calling out. It was the absenteeism. And I know travel is important for many reasons. There's the other element here where you also have, federal operations that shut down. So any sort of workers who might be traveling, federal workers who might be traveling for work-related purposes, that would cease. There could be a lot of money that is potentially lost to the aviation industry because of this shutdown in different ways now.
Yeah, I was just taking a closer look at these FAA anticipation or possible ground delays, which is when they kind of go to that throttle option. And you can see staffing is a contributing factor in several of the airspaces, Philadelphia and Dallas among them. I think some of these other ones, and I'd have to peer into them more closely, but we also have to remember that there's kind of like this stacking that happens, right? You have like air traffic controllers in Charlotte, for example, and then they kind of hand you off to the region, and then they hand you off to other regions. So there's a lot of layers of air traffic controllers. It's not just at the airports.
Yeah. Certainly something to watch, folks, as the days tick on here. As we mentioned, day 7 of the federal government shutdown. This is just one of the impacts. We've talked about so many here on WCNC Plus, including specifically here for the Carolinas, the fact that you've got national parks and attractions that are operated by the national park system, like the Blue Ridge Parkway, that are all kind of, questionable. We literally just had a story today from Smoky Mountains National Park where you've got other entities that are essentially paying for workers to continue to work at these parks. But once Friday comes, I believe it looks like that starts to get questionable. It's really the payment that we're seeing from these other entities only lasting for a week, after which, if the shutdown persists, there could actually start to be some closures, at least at that park.
Welcome back to Takeout. Don't know if you know this, but members of Congress get paid during federal shutdowns. Federal workers do not, which means they experience immediately the uncertainty of said government shutdown. One of them experiencing that uncertainty, FDA microbiologist Stephanie Rogers. She's a single mother of 2 children, furloughed this morning. She joins me now via Zoom or some other technology from Denver, Colorado. Stephanie, I'm so glad you're with us. Tell me what it's been like today and what you're thinking about going forward as a furloughed federal worker.
It's always very concerning how we're going to survive day to day or what our future holds, especially considering children and healthcare, the healthcare issues that we are currently facing, in Congress, as well as other issues that we face as federal employees. And so it's a scary moment today. And so
So what's the scary part?
I really don't.
Under federal law, you're going to get back pay, however long the shutdown lasts. Is that comforting in any way?
Well, there are other considerations given that our CBA that covers most of our employees covered under NTEU, which is for Federal or Food and Drug Administration. There are other types of lapses that can extend if they go beyond a certain amount of days, like 30 days. There are certain types of actions that can be taken that would also end our positions or remove us from federal service. And so it's not just what's happening today, it's what's going to happen in our future. And how do we prepare for that? How do we, with so much uncertainty, how do we know what we should do?
The administration has said that there will be layoffs if this shutdown lasts longer than 2 more days. Do you have any fear, Stephanie, as an FDA microbiologist, you could be not just furloughed temporarily like every other federal employee, but fired?
I do have fear. I have a lot of fear, and it keeps me up at night. My children also are afraid. Now, we know that our FDA commissioner has said that our agency has an exemption, but we just never know day to day because everything seems to change. So there's always this trepidation and this fear that perhaps tomorrow it will be a different answer.
And if the shutdown persists, you don't get paid, you do get back pay, but are you prepared? Do you have a sort of reserve to help you get through however long the shutdown lasts without getting a paycheck?
I have prepared myself. I've been preparing for a little while as we knew this was coming. But I don't know that all employees have that option. You have a lot of our newer employees who, even the probationary employees that were brought back that don't have that option to prepare because of the market or where they live or their rent prices. And so while I am fortunate that I was able to, that's not the case for every one of our employees.
Stephanie Rogers, I appreciate your time and your expertise and your service to the federal government. I wish you the best during the furlough period for however long the government shutdown lasts. Thank you very much for your time. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
All right, our next guest is experiencing the impacts of this shutdown firsthand. Neil Schneider is the treasurer of a local chapter of America's largest federal employee union of government workers. He's based in Denver's Department of Labor, and he joins me now. So thanks so much for making some time for us. Can you just for us explain the current status of day 3 of this shutdown and how it affects you?
Sure. And the effect that I'm having is the same that our union members are having, and that's they're very anxious, they're fearful, they're worried. And the reason for that is we have employees who are working currently for free, and then we have 550,000 others who are furloughed. They don't know when their next paycheck is coming, and that worries them. They don't know what's going on. Not knowing when your next paycheck is going to be is extremely worrisome for anyone in this situation. And, on top of this, people that are not working, they are being used as pawns in political negotiations. And we're talking about civil servants who have dedicated their lives to help others. And what do they get in response? They're getting threats that they're going to potentially lose their jobs permanently. And Vlad, I just don't think that that's right.
I mean, so if you could be on the floor of the United States Senate and deliver this message to lawmakers on both sides of the aisle, what would you say to them?
I'd absolutely say that it's time for us to not be divisive. Everyone is saying this. The Congress needs to listen to the people. The people are asking for Congress to come together and work together to do their jobs. Federal workers, they show up every day to do their job, and Congress needs to do their job, work together, and come to a solution, because this is not just hurting federal workers. This is also hurting the American people in several different ways.
Yeah, we all lose, Neil, as you point out, when Congress can't do their job. But you've heard both sides pointing the finger at the other. How do you and how do your members see it? I mean, because eventually someone's going to have to blink in this game that they're playing with all of our lives. And how do you see it? I mean, do you see the point of view of what the Republicans are saying, and the president is saying, which is it's to follow the Democrats, or are the Democrats on sure footing when they say they want to ensure that certain aspects of the Affordable Care Act are maintained?
Sure. I don't think we see it on the union side as a political issue. We see this as our focus is getting federal workers back to their jobs and helping the American people. Think about it. The USDA, 50% have been furloughed because of the shutdown. Who's performing food and safety inspections to ensure we're eating safe food? Department of Labor, 75% have been furloughed. That includes OSHA. That includes Office of Workers' Compensation. That's only going to increase injuries. Who's going out there and enforcing safety regulations on hazardous work sites? EPA, 95% have been furloughed. I can't think of an agency or any type of business that can lose 95% of their people and be efficient. It's an impossible task. So I don't see this as a political issue. I see this as it is time for Congress to work together, finally, for the American people and do the job that they've been elected to do.
That's an incredibly important message, and I hope that our lawmakers are listening to you and listening to your members, no matter which side of the aisle they sit on. When you hear some of the things that you point out, for example, food safety, that is critical. That affects everybody in this country. And if they're not able to do their jobs, USDA, then we all suffer for it. Neil Schneider, thank you for your perspective. We really appreciate it, and hope this thing resolves itself very quickly for you and your members.
Hundreds of thousands of federal workers are at risk of losing their pay as this government shutdown continues. And the Congressional Budget Office is estimating 750,000 federal employees will be furloughed each day. The White House is also warning permanent layoffs are imminent. Eric King joins us now from Washington. He is a federal employee at the Bureau of Fiscal Management and was furloughed because of the shutdown. And he is also his union chapter's president. Eric, thank you very much for joining us to talk about all of this. You've been in government for nearly 4 decades, been through this a few times. How does this particular shutdown stand out to you? Here we are on day 3.
Well, thanks for having me. And this one here definitely feels different than the other ones. I feel that in this political back and forth, federal employees as myself, we're the ones that are being harmed here the most. And it seems as though the longer that this goes on, the assurance is that we're going to harm the employees that serve the American public, which is us.
And Eric, can you talk to us about how this shutdown has impacted and affected the work that you do, the agency, and how long you think it will be before these effects become even more severe?
So the work that we do, with some of the work that we do is serve the American public in terms of giving them benefits and so forth. And the longer that we're going through this shutdown, the impact is going to start being felt across the country. Many people will start seeing a lack of services. They will start missing payments and they'll start missing benefits and so forth, simply because of the fact that we can't come to some type of understanding to say, hey, the American public is who voted us into these positions. We should make sure that we're prioritizing them and not our political personal agendas.
And Eric, as we had mentioned, the White House has been warning of these layoffs, saying that they're imminent. Are you worried about that?
Yes, I definitely am. Like I said, here we are and continuing to make these cuts. And it's what's important to understand is that these cuts, as on one side where people say government is big, the point is we're big because we serve the American public. We're here because one of the things you can say is that we continue to do our job in the midst of all this confusion and in the midst of all of this adversity. We're still delivering and making sure that America continues to run.
All right, Eric King, thank you very much for joining us. We do appreciate your insight.
And ladies and gents, as you watch with me these 3 videos over here, all I want to say is it is insane that some Republicans has this idea that you need a small government. I'd rather have a government that have a lot of people working for it to avoid the level of bureaucracy and to expedite the service that the American people need. And this does not affect, like I said, the airports, that's one thing, but also all the other agents, including the military. I was watching one TikTok video this week, that one from the C-SPAN, and Michael Maga Johnson, aka Mr. Grinder, was there answering a call. Basically, he was listening on the TikTok video, did not give him a response, was just giving the question and the concern of the caller. And the caller was a military spouse that she was talk to Mr. Grinder about the military. She living a paycheck by paycheck. Her husband has some PSD, and because he served some tours in the military, so he's a disabled veteran. His 2 kids that they have also have some kind of health issues, some kind of disability, that they literally depend on the paycheck to paycheck, literally. And she was stating that if she doesn't get paid on the scheduled time, more likely she will not be able to afford provide the medications that their children need, and as well they could die. Another thing too, that a lot of people are not paying attention, for those that do not serve. All military installations, there also are the small business that depend on the military. For instance, we'll give just an example on Fort Jackson in South Carolina, Columbus, South Carolina. They have the Fort Jackson, they have the people that work in the commissary, and also there's all the small business all around, depending on the military to get paid, so the military can go and use it, personnel can use the service, restaurants, laundromat, and so forth. Now, if the military personnel is not getting paid, that means they also cannot participate or use the service from other business. So it is an issue, and for those, I have somebody that on my last episode, a mega guy that came and make a comment that said that probably was a joke that I state that the Republicans are responsible for that, because they say, the Democrats voted against the resolution. And I said that before, the reason they vote for the resolution because they are focused on providing Medicare. Even Marjorie Taylor Greene came out stating that she's not a fan. Now, I'm paraphrasing. She's not a fan of the Obamacare, but she's going to see if they don't take care of their premiums, their adult children, and her constituents. The premium, healthcare premium, is going to double. Some people maybe triple the cost of it. And she's against of it. And she'd say I believe, one of the reports, I don't know, for the CNN or MSNBC, that she was giving an interview, she said, this is completely the Republican fault. We do not know how to govern. Like I said, I'm paraphrasing. She said something on that point. So it's literally the responsibility of the Republicans. But like I say, all they care about is they do not know how to govern. They're all about money, power, and keep the lobbyists happy and the campaign contributors happy. So as far as financial is concerned, the only really people that are happy with the Trump administration is the millionaires, because of the tax cut that they receive. Anybody else, or as I'm talking about financial, that's it. Everybody else, and the majority of Americans, live to paycheck to paycheck. So that means you gotta wiggle it. And in my job, I'm seeing some effects that someone changes the company did, the CEO did, that caused us more costly to come to work, and they cut some stuff. Now it's more costly for us to come to work. That's some expense that you have to do to require to come to work, and there's no compensation on this hardship that the CEO and the high manager put on us. You know what I'm saying? So now sometimes we got to juggle. Now, what's important? Well, which bills are important? In my personal experiences, my household bills come first. That's what I need to take care of. My rent, the utilities bills, and also my car and car insurance bill, and food on the table. This is the priority of all my bills. Anything else, I got juggle to see, okay, how much money I can pay for this, how much money I can pay for that. It's ridiculous because I'm feeling the effect of poor management, and also I'm feeling the effect of what's going on in the country. Think about a family of 4, 5, 6. You know what I'm saying? Think about the people in the military that are now in outer country serving overseas, but some family members or some spouse, some kids are here inland in America, and they're concerned about how my family is going to be taken care of. My family is going to be evicted. You know what I'm saying? There's so much going on, ladies and gents. That's simply ridiculous. Because once again, I'm stating that Republican people do not know how to govern. They are focused on the money, they're focused on the power, and meanwhile, the cost of rent go crazy, the roads are terrible, schools are terrible, internet in some places are terrible. You know what I'm saying? It's simply ridiculous. And unfortunately, for some loyalty to some political vision, that they rather have, say somebody that identify as white or identify that the Republicans in charge, they still vote for them. Instead have the Democrats or minority people that are going to, that's focused on the policies that's going to benefit all people. You know, I keep saying this again. The farmers that are suffering right now, the white farmers, they're going crazy, crying, yada, yada. They all help me. Everything else before was socialism. No, you cannot have the help of government because it's socialism. Now that they are feeling the heat, oh no, President Trump, please help us out. Oh no, homeboy. For you. Now there's effect to you. Or now you cry for help. Or when somebody else be getting government help, or was a problem for you. But they still believe and they're still voting for the Republicans. Which sense does that make? None. Simply none. So here we go again. The shutdown keep going. So, and be prepared, focus on. I would personally do not plan no travel right now, because unless you get in your car and drive, other than that, you never know what's going to happen. And I would believe this is going to get worse. And like I said, Trump said that you can search yourself, that some people won't going to be paid. Some federal people, government people, they think about back pay. So you expected those people, like, I'm going to give you an example, air traffic controller to come to work, TSA, and then now they have to concern about, oh my God, after that, all this shenanigans that's going on, after all this work, and that's a possibility, I'm not going to get paid for all this work that I'm doing. Put yourself on their shoes, ladies and gents. And please, next time, if you're going to travel by plane, be kind to the TSA, be kind, to all the people that work in the airport, because some of them are not getting paid. And they still have to deal with your nonsense, your bullshit, and your entitlement. All right, listen, so that's all I have to say for this this episode, listen. So if you like this video, please do me a favor, click on the like button, subscribe, and share this video with at least 5 people that you know. I appreciate your support. So please be safe, be kind, and be blessed, and do the best what you can do with what you got. Salute. And I see you next Saturday. This one is delicious, ladies and gentlemen. Very, very good. Definitely, once again, recommend Oi Mami. Go get it. Delicious. Very good rosé. And I see you next Saturday. Holla!
push out on the block. Holding my down, sucker rappers get lost. Coming from the bottom, moving straight to the top. Coming with the pull up for the #1 spot. Pushing my rap like a push out on the block. Holding my down, sucker rappers get lost. Coming from the bottom.